Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Box with the Technical Trader at TWTR.com. It's Thursday night, October the 8th. Interesting days in Wall Street. The FOMC notes came out today. The market really liked what they had to say and rallied, but I want to point out some specific stuff before we get into individual stocks. Let's take a look where we're at on the S&P 500. If you can see, even though the declining top line was taken out, and so was the 50-day. It was not so on the NASDAQ 100. I also want to point out that lateral price resistance at the last peak here at 2020, 2021, today was tested at 2016. We closed right there. If we punch through, we could get to 2050, but even then the declining tops line, lateral resistance coming in around that 2048.50 range may thwart the advance, or futures will be down and will come back down tomorrow. In any case, we've had a nice double bottom. The NASDAQ 100 looks a lot different because of the big spike down in biotech and tech. We had that big spike down and rally back, and then a run up to the declining tops line and moving average, which thwarted the rally, brought it back for 50% retrace, and then a spike up. Back to the S&P for a moment, you'll see we're up 7 of the last 8 days. The NASDAQ 100 is up 6 of the last 8 days. And we're right at the declining tops line, we're right at the 50-day moving average. The key is, if the NBIX can pop through here, a test of the next level near 44.50, that would be the line in the sand. If we get above that, the whole new ballgame, I think. Looking at the Russell, you'll see something else also interesting. Nowhere near the advance, and only back to the declining 50 and moving average. In addition to that, the McClellan oscillator is extremely overbought. T2106. Here we go. So you can see that we've run up to historical proportions. Let's look at a 2-day chart. Over the last couple of years, 3-4 years, it's only got up in that zone 3 times. This is the 4th. It is a bit lower. We may extend that, but anywhere up around plus, 270, 80, 90, 300 would be extremely overbought and should lead to at least a pullback. Now, what's going to be interesting is what kind of pullback we get. I also want to show you the T2108, which is the percent of stocks over the 40. Look at that's run from 6% to 65% in near a week and a half, 2 weeks. So a very big move up. And historically, you can see that anything up in that zone there, plus 88, 90, is extremely overbought. Recently, we're up to the declining tops line that was reached over the last 7 or 8 peaks. So from here on up, we're very overbought on the short-term indices. I do want to point out, in my experience, a thrust off the lows like in 2012, 2010, which occurred there, and also in 2014. Each time the thrust created an intermediate up move, which, because of the thrust to oversold levels was so strong, that as the markets moved higher, the oscillators moved lower and worked off the overbought condition. It just can't keep up with the intensity of the rally, but that's fine. But I do want to point out that this may be a thrust that initiates a new uptrend, not an overbought situation that's going to kill the market. It's possible, but I do want to point that out. Now let's get to some of the major stocks that we have in mind that I want to review today. And I'll go over this much more in depth over the weekend, including some of the specifics that we have in mind in terms of the regular NASDAQ generals and some of the other components. Starting off today with BCEI. Now, a lot of oil stocks have rallied dramatically as oil runs back near 50 from the low 40s, even high 30s, I think it was. But the bottom line is we had a major decline. Declining tops line comes in around 14, 16. And you can see the BCEI has exploded off the levels on monster volume. There is resistance, and I suspect we may find tough going at about 8.25, but if it does get through, 10 is our target. In any case, any pullback in this zone that sets up kind of a left shoulder, head, right shoulder would be an awesome entry opportunity as the near-term declining tops line here was taken out. And usually when you turn around like that dramatically, and the moving averages curl up, the first pullback towards those moving averages can be a really good buying opportunity. So keep an eye on BCEI, among others like ECA, Baytex Energy, OAS, of course, coming up near resistance, but having broken through the 50. Larger cap COP, making a beautiful move here. If it stalls and pulls back, great. If it gets up to 59.60, my target zone, and then pulls back, that's fine with us. And SGY is a beauty. Same thing, run up to resistance. If it gets to up to 12, 12.5, 13, great. If not, let it pull back and consolidate and set us up with a buying opportunity. Mistress Group had a big pop today, blowing through the declining top line and first resistance with a big breakaway gap, taking out the 50 as well. And you can see that this one is taking out all its moving averages today, with a big breakaway gap, a move of 38%, 536, almost 800,000 shares, which is big volume for that stock. Near-term resistance on MG, 20 area, and then I'm looking at a move up towards 22. Or it pulls back and consolidates in this area and sets us up for more upside. Significant movement on Twitter. The daily chart shows that the spike low, the pullback, the 50% retrace platform, and then today, a significant breakout. Let's take out a little bit of resistance here. Shows that a strong move has occurred from 24.5 to 31.5, 7 points, nearly straight up, with one pause here at the 50. But having broken through 3 moving averages and now lateral resistance, I'm kind of expecting that Twitter may make it up to 33.25 short term. The secondary target is 38, but look for resistance in that zone and maybe consolidation, because if you get it, then 38 would be a potential scalp or even swing. And some of the oil ETFs I didn't talk about, but look at the UCO having broken out of the falling wedge. The UWTI is another, and of course there's the USO as well. But all of these have come down, bounced sharply, falling wedges, and broken back out above the 50. So watch for resistance. For example, on UWTI near 15, and on UCO, we're up against resistance nearly already, but 28.25 is going to be an area that if it gets through, it could have significant additional movement. Moving over to APDN, this is a really thinly traded stock that had a big volume day today. You can see the base, explosive move, the return to the prior high, and then a nice move up today of 17% on almost 1 million shares. This stock is headed for 8, maybe 9 short term, but be careful, it's overextended. And by the way, Baytex Energy, BTE, is another one we talked about. But NBIX, I put a swing on it today because I really like the company. I like the long-term channel that was retested. And then the spike up today that reached resistance, pulled it back. But any movement to 47.5 could run us to 52 and then maybe 57. Those are my targets going forward. Looks intriguing, but let's see if it can follow through, because the moving average and lateral price resistance up near today's high, about 47.25, could be significant. WTW, that's one of our swing trades, acting great. You can see how it's popped across the prior high, and it's testing resistance here. But I'm thinking now that since it's taken out this zone here, and we're headed up towards the next target at 8.75, thereabout, maybe 9. And I look closer to 8.90, something like that. That's my target. Stay tuned. SanDisk, one of the stocks that I'm viewing that has had a tremendous downtrend, but has turned it around with a spike low, a right-handed extended V, a strong surge off the lows to test resistance. Can we get a pullback retest that takes us back to platform around 59? That would be ideal. But we may be able, if we do punch through here, we could see 70 very quickly. So watch for a follow through to 70 or a pullback towards 59.60 for an entry point. FCX doing very well. I put a swing on this one today. Now that they've announced they're selling the oil and gas division, focusing on their core copper group, it looks to me like this wants to run back up towards 16, 17 zone, my target next. If any point between here and there, it pulls back and consolidates, look for a hold near the prior high, up around 12.5. If it holds that, sets up a flag, this may be an excellent swing. Big move today on TROX, TROX. But I also want to point out in this case, another stock that has exploded off the lows, going from under 4 to over 8, doubling, taking out the declining top line, it appears, certainly that one. Let's re-examine this. Enjoy your line off of that. So we're up against resistance. I do expect a pullback consolidation. If we get a nice setup flag, maybe it goes up towards 11.12. And CALA is a stock we obviously have a swing on. It's been up, what, 7 days in a row? Looking pretty good in here. I'm expecting a test of this level around near 8. That's my first target. Secondary target near 10. There's a declining top line coming in about 8 3/4. Keep an eye on that. But certainly, the stock OBV is looking better. I'd like to see a little bit better volume. TCK is another. This spike up towards support resistance could result in a pullback, but any pullback in that 6.5 range may be a buy. A key move up on WGBS in the last few days has taken it from $1.20 all the way up to $2.70, but it did back off. Keep an eye on this one. If it gets to that zone, this could be a $5 stock. And that is it for me tonight. Have a good evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.